Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm AndyRC and today I'm going to be checking out the Hubsan H122D X4 Storm. Now, I always feel obliged to check out new Hubsan models because it's what got me back into this hobby, and if you've been flying quadcopters for as long as I have, since about 2012, 2013, then you probably started off with a Hubsan. In fact, I speak to people now who are just getting into the hobby and they started off with a Hubsan because it's a very cheap way to do so, and wow, this is a very cheap setup. Now, they do two versions. There's the standard version and then there's the goggle version. The standard version is just £54 and the goggles version is £89 at the making of this video. I'll link it all in the below because prices change all the time and can make me look a little bit daft. So yeah, check out the links below for the prices. But the last Hubsan model that I reviewed like this, I think, was the H122D Plus, and at the time that one was £160. So wow, yeah, this is a really nice cheap way to get into the hobby, and Hubsan are great at doing that. And this is their new model. So what is it? Well, it says on the listing that it's a FPV racer, and it certainly looks like that, but I don't think it's going to be, for a few reasons which I'll talk about a little bit later. It's a fairly big model, this, and a fairly heavy model. So it weighs 85 grams without a battery, and it weighs 117 grams with a battery, which is quite heavy because you can see here we've got brushed motors, so this is not a brushless model, and they are using 10mm brushed motors, and the battery is a 2-cell, but it's actually a high volt 2-cell battery. You can see there 710 milliamps, 7.6 volts. And you can see there that the connector is just a balance connector. So you are going to have to use their charger that they give you. So it's just like a USB charger there, and it's probably going to take about an hour to charge, I would say. You can see the output 0.8 amps there. So yeah, maybe just a little under an hour to get this one fully charged. And yeah, you could probably find some 2S batteries, probably not high volt at this particular size though, so yeah, I'm not seeing any spare parts for this guy at the moment either. However, I imagine that will change. So I would say this one less of a racer and more geared towards beginners. Why is that? Well, it's got Hubsan's flight controller on here. It's like an all-in-one, and it is stuck in what we call angle mode or stability mode. So when you put the stick in and let go, it levels itself, and there's no way to get out of that. But for the price, it is going to provide a lot of fun, I think, because it has got 720p recording, and at the same time it also produces a 5.8 gigahertz transmission. So you can see here, look at this. So we've got the chip there for the transmitter. Now, it doesn't detail the power output, so I'm just going to guess, looking at the size of this, it's probably going to be 25 milliwatts. We've got a little UFL connector there as well for the antenna. Now, the antenna, sadly, is a sleeve dipole antenna, so that comes up here like that, but it is facing vertical. There's a problem with the older Hubsans there, that you didn't get great range. So yeah, it used to get double the range when you change the antenna, so that's going vertical, which is nice. And you can see we've also got a buzzer on here as well. However, you can't control this buzzer. This buzzer just goes off when it loses connection with the transmitter, which I'll go through in a little bit. So you kind of can use it as a lost model alarm, but you have to turn the transmitter off for it to start beeping. And then we have got the micro SD card slot there. It takes up to a 32 gigabyte and a class 10, I believe you're going to need. And there is a USB connector on the side here, but this is for changing the Hubsan firmware. So who knows, in the future, maybe they could add acro or something like that. But for now, that is not the case. And then we've got the camera up here as well, which is a CMOS camera. It's got a field of view of about 120 degrees. It doesn't detail that anywhere though, so that's just a guess, but it is a wide angle camera. And you can change the angle of it as well, but I'd say be very careful doing that, because if I just spot inside, we have got a flat flexible cable, and if you followed any of my old Hubsan videos, these cables can break if there's too much wear on them. So I'd say be very careful changing the angle, but you know, they have given you permission to do that, just 2 screws on the side there. So another thing that this copter has got is LEDs at the front and LEDs at the back, and those do change depending on which state the copter is in. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Then we've got these huge propellers. It also doesn't detail the size of those, but I would say they're probably bespoke to Hubsan, because if you can see here, they actually screw in, and you're given some spare tiny screws there, and also a spare set of these props. Again, I'm not seeing any spares listed, but that will probably change. Other than that, the frame, it looks like a dead cat configuration there, and it's carbon fiber. It feels really sturdy actually. And one thing I've noticed as well is the motors. This is a complaint that a lot of people tell me, brush motors burn out, so those are on little connectors here, and you can just plug those in. So again, I would say when the spares come out, get some motors for it. So next we have the controller, and it's a toy grade type controller. It takes 4 AAA batteries, which I always find a little bit of a pain of a size to get, but there you go. And it's got this little flip out compartment here, and that is for the monitor that you're given, so I'll talk about that in a bit. Now, as this is meant to be a racer, there's no altitude hold on this, and it's a mode 2 transmitter. I don't think you can get it in mode 1, but I've done videos out there where you can switch the pots around and stuff if you're interested in that, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to fly it in mode 2. And this is actually using the same protocol as the Hubsan H122D Plus. So if you've got one of those transmitters, you can use it, but that transmitter has spring-loaded throttle, so it's not going to be too useful. However, what is good about that model is that it has been deviated. So if you've got a Devo 7E or one of the new multi-protocol jumper transmitters, then you can bind to it, and that's something I should talk about. So all of this is bound to each other out of the box, and if you do want to bind it to, say, another transmitter, then you can do that. And if you then want to rebind this back again, you can also do that. The camera button here acts as a bind button, so you plug your copter in and then hold down this button when you are turning it on with the on button here, and then it will rebind. You want to be careful with that though, because the monitor that it comes with, very nice monitor, actually binds along with it. So we also have a bind button on here, and that is because all of this talks to each other. It's very clever actually. So if you want to bind everything, then you have to hold down this button, turn this one on, turn your copter on, hold this down and turn it on, and then everything binds to each other. But I'll talk about the monitor a little bit later. So yeah, we've got this button here which turns the LEDs on and off. This button here actually turns the information off on the on-screen display, which I'll show you in a bit. And then we've got a camera button here for taking pictures, and video button for starting the video recording. And then we've just got some trimmers here as well, and we've got some functions on here too. So if you press this one down, that goes into like a pre-programmed flip, and then this one's got 3 different rates. You arm the copter by putting both the sticks down like that, and same to disarm. And if you want to calibrate the gyro, put it on a flat surface, put the throttle in the middle and to the side, and then waggle this one around, and that will calibrate your gyro if you're getting drift issues. So onto the monitor. It's got a built-in battery, a 1S 2300 milliamp battery. It charges via a USB connector, and you're given a USB cable for charging that, which is quite nice. You'll notice we have another slot for a micro SD card. So yes, this has got a built-in DVR, which is amazing. It records in 640 by 480, so VGA, opposed to the 720p on here. It does not record the on-screen display, so I'll show you. I'll turn this on. The surface is sort of like a half matte, but also half shiny as well. So I haven't got it turned on at the moment, but yeah, you can see there that we've got the battery telemetry from the copter and the voltage, also the pitch and roll position, which isn't going to tell you much. Then we've got the battery voltage of the monitor here, and then we've also got, like, I think these are the stick positions. So the DVR doesn't record any of this, and also this is an overlay, so if you're thinking, oh, I can use my Fat Shark goggles, yes you can. However, this information will only be on this monitor. It's interesting, compared to the H122D, they've separated the transmitter and the monitor, and they've done that for the goggles, which I'll show you in a bit. Other than that, we have got the antenna here, which is removable. It's SMA, which is quite nice as well, but you're probably going to want to keep it as a whip antenna, or you could maybe use a Bandicoot patch for the linear side of it if you wanted to go a little bit further. If we're having any range issues, I'll check that out later. And then here we've got a bunch of buttons down the side. This monitor, by the way, seems really good quality. So we've got the mode here that switches between taking a photo or picture. That's in the DVR, remember, so not recording to the copter. Amazing what you get for the money. You know, pretty much everything. DVR, HD recording, pretty cool. And then this is to start and stop the DVR, this button here. And then we've got a menu there, so brightness, contrast, saturation. You can change the 5.8 gigahertz frequency as well, and you just use the plus and minus arrows. And as this is all linked up, it changes the frequency of the copter as well. And then if we look at this button here, that'll actually remove the on-screen display information, so the same as what this button does here. And again, I mentioned before, like a long press gets everything bound to everything. And that's the monitor. It's pretty cool. Oh, by the way, you're also given one of these shields here. You have to build it up. That fits over there, but this also fits on the old Hubsan transmitters, something that they never came with, and I was never a big fan of the old Hubsan transmitter, but yeah, that fits on there too. But yeah, you can use that on there to shield the sun in bright sunny conditions, which I will not be experiencing anytime soon. So other than that, you are given a bunch of leaflets and papers. This tells you how to construct that. It is coming apart a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit tricky to slot together this thing. This tells you all of the parts that you are given. So yeah, details the screwdriver. So you're given a little tiny screwdriver there. That's for the props, I would imagine. And then we've got a disclaimer warning, probably telling you where not to fly and stuff. We'll just ignore that. And then we've got some instructions here. It details pretty much everything you need to know, but not quite everything there. There are some things missing off it, but in general, you know, you can figure that out. So this is the goggle version, and this is what you get. And it's basically just a huge box with a Fresnel lens in it. Really comfy to wear, and I'm happy to see that it is long, so it means that it's not going to strain your eyes. We've got this 3-point harness which you can change. We've got a huge gap for the nose. My nose doesn't catch on it, which is really nice. And we've got this foam surround here. You can't adjust the lens, it is fixed in place, but I found that not to be a problem. And the reason that they have done this is so that you can retain the on-screen display, because like I said, if you used any other goggles with this system, you wouldn't get your battery telemetry. It's something that Hubsan do differently. It's not produced on the actual camera itself or the copter. It is transmitted and then it's produced on here. But this just slots into there nicely, and you get a really nice picture out of it, a huge screen. you are going to have to set your recording and all your buttons, etc. before you go. And that just closes up there like that, and this just sticks out of the top nicely. One thing I will say though is there's some latency on this system. When I've connected everything up, there's about a 100 millisecond delay, which I think is probably going to be fine because, you know, we're not going to be doing fast acro with this. So yeah, it's there whether it's recording or not. And I think the way that I'm probably going to do this is just have this in here, and if latency is a problem, then I can spot the copter line of sight. So I'm probably not going to use the goggles for this particular review, and that might help you decide whether you get the goggles version or not. So yeah, let's get and take it for a fly and see how it performs. Okay, so I've got everything recording. Let's go for a takeoff. Wow, it feels quite zippy actually. Let's try out the punch. Wow, that's not bad at all. And you can come right down on the throttle because the motors are always spinning. So what rate am I in here? I think that's the first rate, which is actually, yeah, it's got quite a lot of throw on it. So, yeah, second rate, a lot of throw as well. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit twitchy, this one, for a beginner, I would say. Let's just turn it around, and yeah, we've got that light on the front there. So let's see if I can turn that off. Doesn't seem to be doing anything, that. Don't know why that is. Maybe because it's recorded, I don't know. That's supposed to turn that LED off. Is it just turning the one off on the back? No, I don't know why that's not working. Let's try a flip. So it gains height when it does the flip. And let's try backflip. Yeah, does exactly the same. So I'm actually going to keep it in the first rate because it's not too windy today. Right, let's see if I can do some FPV. Oh yeah, the image is really clear. I don't know what the range is going to be like on the control, but I'm going to guess probably good for just about 80 meters, I would say. So I'm going to keep it in close. Yeah, can see a little bit of hesitation on the controls when I take it far out, but wow, that video, that's crystal clear. Yeah, I don't really want to take it out any further than that, especially as I'm converting everything from mode 1. Now, quite worryingly, it said on the website that when the battery gets low, that it will return to takeoff point and land. Well, it doesn't have GPS, so I hope that it's not going to do a 1 key to return, because if you watch my channel, that's usually a 1 key to crash. I'm hoping what that means is that when the battery gets low, the buzzer will go off and I'll be able to bring it back in time. I'm hoping that's what that means. But yeah, my main concern with this was that the latency would cause a problem with how it flies, but it just doesn't at all. You know, this isn't an all-out racer, so for just flying around circuits, which is probably all you're gonna do with it, it's nice. It's really nice. And the picture is crystal clear as well. Now the DVR records in 4:3, so if you want to match it to the HD footage, I'm probably going to have to stretch that in the editor, and that's not too much of a problem. The flight time, they've said anywhere between 5 and 8 minutes, and that makes sense because it depends how vigorous on the throttle you are. Oh, it's getting away from me a bit there. Oh, there we go. It's beeping, and the copter's beeping as well. So yeah, not the longest of flight times, but acceptable for the size of model. It's not returning itself, luckily, so I can bring it back myself. And let's bring it in for a landing, and then disarm, and then let's stop all of the recordings. So it's the recording on board. That doesn't seem to be stopping, so let me stop the video on here. So that's stopping. The video's not wanting to stop on the copter itself, it's still flashing. What's that about? Oh, there we go. Well, it says that it stopped, so let me start it again. Not sure what that was about, but yeah, maybe a little bug there. Look at that. Oh, there we go. It just takes a little bit to get the video stop recording. Not sure why that LED wouldn't turn off either. It's turned off now, but whilst it was recording in flight, look at that. So maybe another little bug there. Let's just turn all this off because it's going crazy. And when it loses connection there, you can see that it's gone to a double beep. So there you go, that is my review of the Hubsan H122D. I'll put a link in the description if you wish to get one. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.